You carry a self-healing current, a river under the skin, blocked at points I will reveal in this video. In a few minutes, you may notice a gentle warmth blooming behind your sternum, and your breath will settle like a stone finding the riverbed at the base of your chest. Clear signs that the current has begun to move again. There are 4 precise places where this vital energy stalls, tightening into small knots that bind you to cycles of tension, exhaustion, and slow recovery. When these knots loosen and dissolve, your daily energy holds steady, your sleep drops into deep, restoring waters, and your nerves stop flinching. You no longer answer every minor stressor with a storm. Place one hand at the center of your chest now, and keep it there as you listen. You're about to discover exactly where your current lost its way, and how to switch it back on using the language your body already speaks: breath, pressure, and attention. The blockage points I'll show you are invisible to the eyes, yet unmistakably tangible once you learn to feel them, like small doors under the skin. And each one carries a distinct key for reactivating your inner power of regeneration, calling your system back to clarity and quiet strength. What you're sensing isn't just energy, it's autopoiesis, the regenerative intelligence your organism has always carried, a living blueprint that updates itself in real time. Every cell in your body holds the capacity to produce itself, sustain itself, and repair itself. But this silent orchestration only works when there is coherence across systems, like instruments tuning to a shared pitch. You will leave this video knowing exactly how to reactivate this internal mechanism without relying on anything external. Only the language your cells already know: breath, pressure, pacing. This isn't theory or wishful thinking. It's biology applied through protocols you can feel working, moment by moment, as warmth and steadier rhythm gather in your chest. The alchemists called this the work in red, the final stage in which the body transforms through its own substance, heat ripening matter from within. They knew there was a point of ignition at which the organism abandons patterns of deterioration and regains its original capacity for regeneration. Like metal remembering its first ore, modern neuroscience confirms this ancient wisdom by showing how the autonomic nervous system can be reprogrammed through specific signals: breath, touch, and timing, creating healing cascades that spread throughout the organism. You won't just understand how this happens, you will feel the transformation unfolding in your own tissues. By the end of this video, your body will be operating at a calmer, steadier frequency, with unmistakable markers that autopoiesis is fully engaged again. Warmer hands, softened jaw, deeper breathing, a steadier pulse, even the quiet gurgle of digestion returning. And it all begins by recognizing exactly where this intelligence was interrupted by shock, habit, or fatigue, so the current can find its path home. In the hermetic chambers of ancient Egypt, initiates guarded the secret of separatio, the art of separating the pure from the impure within the organism itself, as carefully as gold drawn from ore. They knew every cell carries the capacity to discern what nourishes it from what contaminates it. Yet this cellular discrimination awakens only when the system moves in order, breath, pulse, and nerve, aligning like instruments tuned to one note. The alchemical process, called circulatio, named this precisely: a current traveling the body in continuous loops, purifying and reorganizing living matter from the inside out, washing each tissue as a tide returns to shore. In that looping motion, they recognized the first law of repair, the foundation of all true healing. What ancient masters intuited, neuroscience now decodes with molecular precision. Stephen Porges showed through polyvagal theory that the vagus nerve has two distinct branches, a primitive path tied to shutdown and immobilization, and a myelinated evolved branch responsible for safety, connection, and regeneration. When that ventral branch is engaged, it broadcasts to the whole organism that it is safe to invest in repair. Hormones rebalance. The gut-brain axis shifts toward deep digestion, immune signaling softens, and tissues prioritize growth. Maturana and Varela revealed how living systems continually create the conditions for their own existence through cycles of autopoiesis, self-producing loops that restore order, affirming what the alchemists named opus contra naturam, the work that moves with nature by aligning to its laws, not forcing against them. Your cells recognize specific frequencies as command signals, like codes tapped on a living telegraph. When you breathe in a particular way, touch certain points on the body, or allow spontaneous micro-movements to ripple through, you are issuing direct instructions to this cellular purification system. This is not mental suggestion, it is real, measurable bioelectric communication that can shift membrane potentials, nudge pH, redirect blood flow, and modulate enzyme production. The ancients spoke of the philosopher's mercury. Today we know it as the neural current itself, a conductive intelligence traveling synaptic and fascial pathways, restoring coherence wherever there was fragmentation. The first portal, where your vital force slips away, lies just below the sternum, the diaphragm. This dome-shaped muscle does more than breathe. It works as an energetic valve, a hinged gate separating the domain of the heart from the abdominal field. Under chronic alertness, the diaphragm tightens and stays partially closed, a lifted drawbridge that blocks clear conversation between heart and viscera, pulse and gut. You can feel it now. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your belly. Breathe as you normally do, and notice which hand rises first. If the hand on your chest moves before the one on your belly, the valve is partially blocked, the gate is stuck at half-mast, and the current is forced to detour around it. The second portal is the solar plexus, roughly 4 fingers above the navel. This center is where emotions condense into physical tension, shame, fear of judgment, and unexpressed anger crystallizing into a tight band. When the solar plexus hardens, it becomes a knot that interrupts the upward flow of vital energy, a choke point in the river. It feels as if you carry an invisible stone in your stomach, heavy and magnetic, absorbing your strength instead of distributing it. Anatomically, this is where the vagus nerve fans out to innervate the digestive organs, the switchboard of rest and repair. And when there is tension here, the entire parasympathetic system is dulled, leaving digestion shallow and the heart overworked. The third portal sits at the center of the sternum, where the thymus lies, a small shield behind the breastbone. This gland governs not only physical immunity, but your capacity to receive love, opportunity, praise, healing. When you close yourself for protection, the thymus stiffens and its quiet radiance dims, like a lamp with a hand over the flame. You'll notice it as a tight chest, breath that won't descend fully, a microflinch at kindness, or difficulty accepting help from others. The thymus is the portal of courage. When it opens, the breath drops, the heart unarmors, and you feel able to meet any situation with steady serenity rather than struggle. The fourth portal reveals itself in the wrists, especially where the radial artery surfaces at the crease, the small drum where the heart's rhythm meets the hands. Here, each beat carries a telegram of coherence or chaos to the entire periphery, telling muscles, skin, and nerves what state to inhabit. When the pulses feel disconnected, irregular, shallow, or faint, it means the current is not reaching the fingertips. Emotion dulls, touch loses brightness, and a subtle numbness clouds your sense of embodiment. Strong, rhythmic pulses, steady under light pressure, announce that the current is flowing freely from the heart through the arms into every cell, returning warmth, precision, and presence to your reach. These 4 portals operate as an integrated circuit, a looped pathway where each node informs the next. When one closes, the others strain to compensate, carving secondary tensions that ripple across fascia and posture, and slowly bend the whole structure around the missing flow. The result is a body that works harder yet feels dimmer, like a city rerouting power through flickering lines. The key to reactivating the current is not to pry anything open, but to supply the right conditions: warmth, unhurried breath, precise touch, and permission, so the system loosens its own knots and restores continuity. In that gentler field, the organism returns by itself to its natural state of flow and coherence, the circuit humming without effort. Repolarization happens when you interrupt the cellular survival loop and allow each cell to regain its ideal electrical charge, like a compass needle righting itself to true north. Cells under chronic stress run at reduced voltage, accumulating toxins and losing the ability to distinguish nutrients from waste. The signal-to noise collapses. The first sign of repolarization is a shift in intracellular pH, when the inner environment turns slightly more alkaline. Membranes restore their selective permeability and the pumps resume their rhythm. That means oxygen, minerals, and water enter with ease, while acidic metabolites are naturally expelled. You feel this as a subtle inner cleansing, warmth and clarity spreading, shoulders drop. The mouth moistens, the breath deepens, a relief that rises from the inside out. Intercellular communication is restored through specialized junctions that function as microscopic electrical bridges, tiny gates that let charge and message flow. When there is coherence in the autonomic nervous system, these junctions synchronize thousands of cells at once, sending waves of instruction through entire tissues, like wind setting a field of grass to one sway. This is how a conscious diaphragm breath can trigger back muscles to release, or how a gentle touch on the solar plexus can kindle heat in the chest and soften the throat. The extracellular matrix, the living space between cells, acts as a conductive medium that amplifies these signals when it is properly hydrated and free of chronic inflammation, turning the whole body into a single resonant circuit. The restoration follows a predictable sequence. First, the parasympathetic system takes the lead, broadcasting safety to the body-wide network so muscles, glands, and gut stop bracing for impact. Then microcirculation widens its capillary gates, delivering fresh nutrients and oxygen to areas that had slipped into energy-saving mode. And heat begins to pool where it once felt cold. Simultaneously, the lymphatic system accelerates the drainage of accumulated waste, especially in regions burdened by chronic tension, clearing the lanes so repair can proceed. You can track this progression through sensory markers: increased salivation, spontaneous yawns, warmth migrating along ribs and limbs, the belly softening, and small involuntary sighs that rise unbidden, each one signaling an inner pressure release and the system returning to rhythm. The final phase of repolarization is fascial reorganization, when the connective tissue web that encases muscles and organs regains its natural elasticity and glide. Healthy fascia is a three-dimensional weave that transmits force and movement in an integrated way. Under stress, it dries, stiffens, and fragments into isolated lines of pull. When repolarization completes, That weave rehydrates and recomposes, and your body feels like a unified system again, rather than parts straining against each other. Movements grow more fluid, joints feel lightly buoyed, breath deepens without effort, and a pervasive sense of being at home in your own body settles in like quiet light. This process requires neither willpower nor mental control. It unfolds on its own when you offer the organism the right conditions: warmth, unhurried breath, and quiet attention. It's like clearing debris from a riverbed. Once the channel is open, the water simply finds its course and gathers strength. Your only task is to recognize the early signs that repolarization has begun: softer eyes, deeper sighs, warmth moving under the skin, and let it finish without interference, resisting the urge to steer or rush what already knows how to complete itself. Reactivating your vital force unfolds through a 3-movement ritual that speaks directly to the primitive nervous system. Sit and let the spine rise of its own accord, upright but unforced, as if a fine thread were drawing the crown toward the sky while the pelvis grows heavy and rooted. Soften the jaw and rest the tongue lightly on the palate, sealing a quiet loop the old masters called the heavenly bridge, letting breath travel with less friction. Place your hands on your thighs, palms down, to complete your ground, thighs warm, knees easy, feet aware of the floor. Let your eyes relax, lids half awake. The intention here is simple and clean. I allow the current to circulate again. Speak it inwardly, not as a hope, but as an instruction, a direct command the body understands. The first movement is a 3-dimensional breath that awakens a sleeping diaphragm. Inhale slowly through the nose, directing air toward the base of the ribs. Let the side ribs widen and the back ribs subtly bloom, not just the front. Place your hands to feel that lateral expansion, as if your torso were a bellows opening in all directions. Pause softly at the top of the inhale, not a hold, but a floating moment, allowing oxygen to distribute fully and the ribs to settle around it. Then exhale through a slightly parted mouth with an almost inaudible sound, like a controlled sigh releasing steam from a valve. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale to invite the parasympathetic vagus to the helm, and keep the jaw, tongue, and eyes soft. Repeat for 3 to 5 minutes, noticing how each cycle drops deeper, the belly yielding, the low back widening. Layers of tension you didn't know you carried loosening on their own. The sign it's working is simple. Breath becomes spontaneously slower and deeper. Pauses arrive by themselves, and the chest no longer tries to lead. The diaphragm begins to do the remembering for you. The second movement is conscious touch at the solar plexus, located about 4 fingers above the navel. Place your fingertips and trace very slow circles with minimal pressure, as if listening with your hands. Less is more here. Do not press or pry. Simply offer steady presence to this region that stores so many undigested emotions. You may feel warmth spreading outward, spontaneous yawns, a swell of saliva, or small involuntary sighs. These are signs that the energetic knot is dissolving and the belly is willing to receive again. Spend 2 to 3 minutes here, allowing any sensation to surface without judgment, letting waves pass through. Then slide your attention to the center of the sternum where the thymus lies, and tap very gently with your fingertips at roughly 2 taps per second light, rhythmic raindrops inviting the chest to soften and open. The third movement awakens the wrists as portals of vital force. Place the thumb of your right hand over your left wrist at the spot where the radial artery taps, a small drum under the skin. Inhale and imagine energy rising up the arm from wrist to shoulder, a fine current climbing the inner channels. Exhale and see that same current descend through the center of the chest into the belly, settling like warm sand. After a few cycles, switch sides and repeat with the same unhurried rhythm. The aim is not to provoke anything dramatic, but to notice the micro-pulses beginning to appear behind the breastbone, subtle proof that cardiac coherence is returning and the circuit is knitting. Finish by standing with your knees slightly unlocked, feet easy, and simply allow any micro-tremor that wants to arise. Do not induce it, just allow. This is how the body discharges residual charge and completes nervous system cycles that were once left unfinished. Joshua had worked 43 years as a production supervisor in an automotive components plant, leading his team with a firm but fair hand, the line's rhythm ticking in his bones. At 57, after decades of breathing shallowly to shoulder constant pressure, his body began to exact its price. Chest pains doctors couldn't explain, chronic insomnia, and a fatigue that seemed to seep from his bones like coolant from a slow leak. His wife Margaret noticed he'd become a hardened version of himself, jaw set, shoulders lifted, always braced for the next problem. Even his laugh had edges. Joshua knew something was wrong, but he couldn't name it. He felt disconnected from his own body, moving through fluorescent days on autopilot. For so long he'd forgotten the weight of a full breath, what it was to be truly present. It was during a routine appointment, cuff hissing, fluorescent lights humming, that his doctor mentioned diaphragmatic breathing to reduce blood pressure. Joshua decided to try, more from desperation than conviction. The first time he placed his hands on chest and belly, he was startled to realize he'd been breathing only with the upper lungs for decades, as if living on the attic floor of his own house. When he finally directed air downward and felt his ribs widen laterally, even the back ribs faintly bloom, something shifted inside him, a warm thread dropping into the belly, a sensation he hadn't felt since childhood, as if an inner door had swung on long rusted hinges. In the weeks that followed, small changes gathered into a quiet tide. Sleep began to return by itself, the midnight jolts eased. Chest pain dimmed to a distant echo, and mornings arrived without dread. His pulse felt steadier at the wrist, his jaw unclenched. And for the first time in years, he could embrace Margaret without performing a role, unarmored, present, breathing all the way down. 6 months later, Joshua described the experience to a colleague as moving back into my own body, like returning to a familiar house and finding the lights working again. He had rediscovered an intelligence within him that didn't depend on willpower or mental control, a current that knew the way when he stopped forcing it. Margaret said it was as if the man she'd married 30 years earlier had finally come home, shoulders lower, eyes softer, a laugh without armor. Joshua realized that for decades he'd been cut off from an essential part of himself, and that the key to reclaiming it was as close as his next breath, simple, repeatable, always available, a door he could open any time he remembered to knock. What happened to Joshua now needs to become a permanent physical reality in your body. The first marker that integration is complete is breath deepening on its own, without effort, as air reaches the base of your ribs and the abdomen gently expands with each inhale, the back ribs subtly widening as if making room. Notice to a quiet warmth or bright presence at the center of the sternum where the thymus rests, a small coin of heat signaling that this portal of courage is awake again. And another unmistakable sign, the solar plexus softens. What was a constant not becomes a calm center of gravity, steady and responsive rather than braced. If you place a light finger at the wrist, the pulse often meets you with a steadier rhythm, a final proof that the whole circuit is beginning to move as one. To anchor this new state, create your personal signal gesture. Place one hand at the center of your chest and take 3 conscious breaths, letting each exhale dissolve any residual tension like mist in sunlight. Soften your jaw, let the eyes unfocus, and feel the sternum warm under your palm as the shoulders drop a fraction. Use it whenever you notice old patterns, shallow breaths, lifted ribs, unnecessary strain beginning to return. This simple gesture is a portable ritual you can do anywhere, a direct command to the nervous system to rejoin coherence, lengthening the exhale and reminding the whole body to settle back into its native rhythm. Your point of return is simple and always available. My body knows how to heal. Plus a breath that descends to the belly, plus a naturally upright spine, as if a fine thread were lifting the crown. This trio phrase, breath, posture, reactivates the hidden current whenever you call it, like clearing a channel with one smooth gesture, turning each flicker of tension into an invitation to center. Let the words land, let the exhale fall like a small tide, and feel the spine stack quietly, the body remembering its native strength. Today you crossed a portal most people never find, the recognition that your body is not merely flesh carrying your awareness, but an intelligent universe capable of regeneration the moment you speak its native tongue. The hidden current has always been there, pulsing quietly even in your darkest hours, waiting for you to stop outsourcing your healing and turn inward to the source. What Joshua discovered, what you felt moving through these practices, is not one method among many. It is a return to the natural state our civilization trained us to forget, the baseline of order beneath the noise. Every breath that sinks to your center, every conscious touch at the solar plexus, every micro tremor you allow is an act of intimate rebellion, a soft refusal to live disempowered. These are the small rites by which you reclaim authorship over your own life, subtle, steady, sovereign, until coherence becomes your ordinary weather. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "The only way is inward." He understood that the most transformative journey does not unfold across external geography, but within the secret topography of the organism, the chambers, currents, and subtle weather of your own body. When you reactivate your vital current, you're not merely improving symptoms. You are reclaiming your nature as a self-organizing system, a miniature cosmos governed by laws of regeneration that operate independent of your conscious will. You become the alchemist of your own blood, the architect of your peace, the guardian of your vital force, testing and proving it through felt experience rather than borrowed belief. No external authority can validate or invalidate this, because it occurs in the most intimate territory there is, the place where consciousness meets matter, where your breath writes its signature into your cells and the body answers with order. There is a profound difference between knowing about healing and embodying healing. Today you crossed that threshold and felt it take root. Your body now carries a somatic memory of wholeness, a coherence and aliveness you may not have touched for years or decades, and it's inscribed where concepts cannot reach, in tissue, bone, breath pattern, and the heart's quiet rhythm. This memory is stronger than any idea because it lives in sensation and posture, in the way your ribs widen and your jaw lets go. When you step out of this video and back into everyday life, you will carry a secret map. You know where your strength lives. You know the address of your own healing and how to arrive. A phrase, a breath, a posture. A human being who has learned to awaken their hidden current will not be hostage to fear, exhaustion, or the old helplessness before life. You have options in every moment because the current is yours to call. You have become the temple and the priest, the remedy and the healed. Healing never came from outside, because you were always the answer to your own question, and now your body remembers. If this content stirred something in you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, small acts that help us carry this ancestral knowledge to more people ready to rediscover the body's regenerative intelligence. I want to hear how you feel this transformation unfolding in real time. Write in the comments. I reactivate the hidden current that awakens my body's self-healing power. Speak it as a living declaration. This statement links you directly with the vital force you just experienced and strengthens its circulation. Share this with someone you know is ready to remember their own inner intelligence, a quiet invitation that could change the way they inhabit their life. And don't stop here. Click the screen and dive into another transformative piece of the channel. Each video is a portal opening into deeper dimensions of your essential nature. Remember, the same force that moves the stars also awakens your power to heal yourself to currents. One source, both expressions of the same infinite wisdom moving through you.